demographic controls.
What leads to the higher...
with the law.
I'm sure this will be answered, but
now, this doesn't mean that...
I guess, well, maybe it won't be since it's almost over. What leads to the higher levels of lead concentration in the infants, in like the newborns and all of that? Is it just like how... Artesium's new video? The man who accidentally killed the most people in history.
One single scientist created 3 inventions that accidentally caused the deaths of millions of people, including himself.
Oh.
Not only that, they decreased the average intelligence of people all around the world, increased crime rates, and caused 2 completely separate environmental disasters that we are still dealing with today. Part of this video is sponsored by Ren. More about them at the end of the show. In 1944, as a young chemist who had just finished his master's, Claire Patterson went to work on the Manhattan Project, building the first nuclear weapons. His job was to concentrate uranium-235, the fissile fuel for bombs, from the much more common uranium-238. And this required huge machines, mass spectrometers, which separated the 2 types of uranium by their slight difference in mass.
Yeah, I'll be going to the OTK house tomorrow.
After the war, Patterson went back to grad school to get his PhD. He picked a research project that would take advantage of his experience with mass spectrometers, measuring the age of the Earth. Radioactive rocks are effectively clocks. Uranium-238, for example, decays into thorium, and then protactinium, and then 12 more decays, until it ends up as lead-206, which is stable. The rate of this decay is consistent and can be measured. It takes 4.5 billion years for half of a sample of U-238 to decay into lead-206.
I don't know if I trust
Patterson's PhD project was to determine the age of the Earth. Patterson was tasked with measuring the lead content, and another student, George Tilton,
big brain. I've never even heard of
uranium.
Zircon.
Tilton's uranium measurements were fine. They matched predictions. But Patterson's lead measurements were all over the place, and they were many, many times higher than they expected.
We take George's uranium and my lead. Not right, Patterson. There was lead there that didn't belong there.
So where was all this extra lead coming from?
The aliens gave it to us.
That mystery would take over the rest of Claire Patterson's life and bring him to the literal ends of the Earth.
In those days, cars needed to be hand-cranked to start.
The good old days, baby.
And turned the crank, and the engine roared to life, a little too suddenly. The man couldn't get out of the way, and the crank handle hit him in the face and broke his jaw.
Fucking idiot.
He died as a result of his injuries. His name was Byron Carter.
What the fuck?
He was the founder of his own car company. So
he died of a broken jaw? Awful way of going out. Developed pneumonia as a result of injuries he sustained when he tried to hand crank start a car stranded on the Belle Island Bridge near Detroit. What a terrible way of going out. It wasn't the hit that killed him, but he wouldn't have got pneumonia without getting hit, I guess. Though I don't really see how getting hit in the jaw can result in pneumonia. True, I guess, yeah, it was just the early 1900s.
He counted among his close friends the founder of Cadillac, Henry Leland. Leland was so distraught over his friend's death that he resolved to eliminate hand cranks from his vehicles. Leland hired Charles Kettering to create a self-starting car, and by 1911, he had a working prototype.
Hand cranking was difficult and dangerous, and best left to men.
Okay.
But a car that started itself?
Well, if you say so, I guess.
Everything.
The world's first crankless car was the Cadillac Model 30. It was much more powerful than cars before it. It had a top speed of 45 miles per hour and 40 horsepower, double the Ford Model T. The Model 30 was a huge success for Cadillac, doubling the company's annual sales. But it had a problem. It was deafeningly loud. In internal combustion engines, a piston compresses the fuel-air mixture, which is then ignited by a spark from the spark plug. The expanding hot gases push the piston back down. The problem with the Model 30 engine was it compressed the fuel-air mixture more than previous models. So much, in fact, that often the fuel would spontaneously combust before the spark from the spark plug. So rather than orderly, perfectly timed explosions, you'd get multiple haphazard combustions leading to turbulent pressure waves inside the cylinder. The resulting sound led the problem to become known as engine knocking. Knocking wasn't just hard on the ears, it hurt the engine's performance. It reduced power output and lowered fuel efficiency. The vibrations also damaged the piston and walls of the cylinder, shortening the life of the engine.
We all agreed on that.
The good news was that engine knocking could be corrected by changing the fuel.
Now, real fuels aren't made up of only these two ingredients. They're a mix of lots of different hydrocarbons, but the octane rating tells you what mixture of octane and heptane gives equivalent performance. For example, 98 octane fuel can withstand the same compression as a mixture of 98% octane and 2% heptane. Now, I'm going to take a little bit of 98 octane fuel and put it in this piston, and when I compress it, nothing happens, which is exactly what you'd expect. This fuel can withstand a lot of compression. Diesel has an octane rating of 20, so it acts like a mixture of 20% isooctane and 80% N-heptane. Let's see what happens with the same compression ratio.
It blows his hand off.
There you go. You get a little explosion in there. That's because this is a low octane fuel. I mean, that's what diesel's meant to do. You compress it and it ignites. But you don't want this sort of fuel in an engine with spark plugs.
That's
the reason fancy cars demand high octane fuel is to prevent knocking in their high compression, high performance engines.
Kettering wanted to find an additive which would increase the octane rating of ordinary fuel and eliminate knocking in high compression engines. So he hired 27-year-old engineer Thomas Midgley Jr. Midgley experimented with all sorts of compounds, from melted butter and camphor to ethyl acetate and aluminum chloride. He later wrote most of them had no more effect than spitting in the Great Lakes. Ethanol was an interesting exception. It did stop the knocking, but you needed a lot of it, about 10% of the fuel mixture for it to be effective. That much ethanol would be expensive and hard to turn a profit on. And Midgley was really after an additive that was cheap, easy to produce, and effective even at low concentrations. So he kept trying. Then he hit on tellurium. It worked wonderfully as an anti-knock agent, but it had a terrible smell. You couldn't get rid of it by changing clothes or bathing. His wife was so offended by the stench that he had to sleep in the basement for 7 months.
Jesus Christ!
Midgley wrote, "I don't think that, although this doubled the fuel economy, humanity would suffer this smell."
7 months?
After 5 years of working on the problem, Midgley found what he thought was the perfect solution. Tetraethyl lead. That's a lead atom right there in the center. This additive was exactly what he was looking for. It stopped the knocking, it didn't smell, it was cheap to produce and readily available. Best of all, you only needed 1 part in 1,000 for it to be effective.
In a call to Kettering, Midgley said, "Can you imagine how much money we're gonna make with this? We're gonna make $200 million, maybe even more."
That is a lot.
That is over $3 billion in today's dollars.
Now, for his discovery, the American Chemical Society gave him the prestigious Nichols Award, and they asked him to do a series of public talks, but Midgley declined. He and Kettering patented the process for making tetraethyl lead, and they called their new additive ethyl, perhaps so it might be confused with another common additive, ethyl alcohol.
Oh.
They made no mention
of lead. I was going to take a guess, I was going to be wrong.
Then they teamed up with 3 of America's largest corporations, General Motors, DuPont, and Standard Oil of New Jersey, to form the Ethyl Corporation.
Their marketing was brilliant.
No man can look at the amazing record of accomplishment here in this research division without confidence that these men are going ahead with an eye to the future, looking for new facts and principles which will make things better and make life easier for all of us.
Yeah, America! We like lead.
At the 1923 Indianapolis 500, the top 3 finishers all used ethyl, and the demand for leaded gasoline took off. Within 2 months of operating, dozens of workers fell ill with lead poisoning.
Just
5
a
of them
coincidence.
died.
Probably faking
To
it.
address the public outcry, Midgley held a press conference, and there he poured tetraethyl lead onto his hands, and he inhaled it for a full minute. He claimed he could do this daily
Bro,
without
what a
harm.
giga Chad. Holy
But
shit.
Midgley knew the dangers. The reason he had turned down the public talks was because he spent much of 1923 in Florida, where he himself was recovering from lead poisoning. He didn't go anywhere near his company's product if he could help it. Lead is dangerous even in small doses.
Holy shit.
It mimics calcium in our bodies, so there's no efficient way to get rid of it. And like calcium, lead can be stored in bones for years, meaning it can continue to poison the body long after the initial exposure. The organ most sensitive to lead is the brain. Lead breaks down the myelin sheath around axons and prevents the release of neurotransmitters. That's why common symptoms of lead poisoning are headaches, memory loss, and tingling in the hands and feet. And children are particularly susceptible. Lead exposure can cause permanent learning disorders and behavioral problems. And the dangers of lead had been known for hundreds of years. Already in 1786, Benjamin Franklin remarked that lead had been used for far too long, considering its known toxicity. You will observe with concern how long a useful truth may be known and exist before it is generally received and practiced on. He would have been aghast to learn that nearly 150 years later, scientists planned to add lead to fuel. Doctors and public health officials from MIT, Harvard, Yale, and the US Health Service wrote to Midgley and warned them against producing tetraethyl lead. They called lead a creeping and malicious poison and a serious menace to public health. Their concerns were dismissed.
This model shows how just the right amount of fluid containing tetraethyl lead and dye is added to the gasoline.
No one doubted that a lot of lead was bad for you, but how much harm could a little lead do?
Do you like Zillikami?
By the 1950s, millions of motorists globally were burning lead in their cars and releasing it into the air. Some of that lead ended up on Claire Patterson's zircon samples, preventing him from determining their age. In 1952, he moved to Caltech, where he built a new lab from scratch. Suspicious of environmental contamination, he tore the electrical cables out of the walls to remove the lead solder. He cleaned the floors and benches daily with ammonia and made sure that air was always being blown out of the lab. To go inside, you had to wear a plastic bunny suit. Patterson basically invented the clean room. Inside that room, he turned his attention to the oldest rocks in the solar system. Meteorites. All the original rocks on Earth had long since been destroyed by tectonic activity. But meteorites come from asteroids, which formed around the same time as Earth. They have just been drifting through space until they entered the Earth's atmosphere. So the best way to measure the age of the Earth was to measure the age of meteorites.
Patterson measured 5 meteorites, each with 3 different radiometric dating techniques, and he found they were all 4.55 billion years old. That number is within 0.15% of the currently accepted value for the age of the Earth. You know, before Patterson's experiment, people thought the Earth was a billion years younger. So Patterson had done it. He measured the age of the Earth. But he wasn't done getting rid of lead contaminants.
Public concern about lead exposure had continued to grow. But President of Standard Oil, Frank Howard, pushed back, saying, "We do not feel justified in giving up what has come to the industry like a gift from heaven on the possibility that a hazard may be involved in it."
But Patterson wondered, just how natural is the lead in our environment? And he had just the skills to find out.
He started eating dirt for 5 years and then measured his own blood.
He began by measuring lead in the oceans. If it were natural, he expected the concentration of lead to be the same regardless of depth. But if lead pollution had increased recently, it would be more concentrated near the surface. He took samples in the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans down to a depth of 4 kilometers. And sure enough, lead concentrations were nearly 10 times higher near the surface. Lead pollution was clearly recent, but when exactly had it occurred? To find out, Patterson had to go to Greenland and Antarctica. Ice cores record the level of lead in the air going back thousands of years.
What?
The levels of lead in the atmosphere have been elevated for the last 4,500 years. All of it is due to human activity, mainly smelting ores to make metal. And for comparison, he measured the lead in bones and teeth of Peruvian and Egyptian mummies. Since they lived over 1,600 years ago, they would have been exposed to much less lead in their lifetimes. He expected to find modern Americans had about 100 times as much lead in their bones, but results showed it was closer to a factor of 1,000. 20th century Americans had 1,000 times more lead in their bones than their ancestors. Studies of baby teeth revealed that even lead exposure well below the level considered safe resulted in delayed learning, decreased IQ, and increased behavioral problems.
And there is a broad consensus on the part of everybody except the lead industry and its
That's pretty wild.
Lead is extremely toxic at extremely low doses.
A follow-up study showed that those with higher levels of lead in their baby teeth were many times more likely to fail out of high school. As a result of studies like these, the CDC's guidelines for the acceptable level of lead in children's blood dropped from 60 micrograms per deciliter down to 3.5. And as far as we know today, there is no safe level of lead. Globally, lead is believed to be responsible for nearly 2/3 of all unexplained intellectual disability.
Holy shit.
Lead caused a loss of more than 800 million IQ points.
Oh, that's a weird
The world
statistic.
is less intelligent today because of leaded gasoline.
That's
But
fucking
there
crazy.
are even more troubling correlations. The US saw a steady rise in crime from the 1970s to the 1990s. Then it abruptly declined. This graph looks eerily similar to a plot of preschool blood lead levels, just offset by 20 years. The obvious question is, did kids who were exposed to higher levels of lead grow up to commit more crimes than they otherwise would have? You might think this is just a spurious correlation, but the same pattern appears in many countries, including Britain, Canada, and Australia. And we know there's a causal connection between lead exposure and antisocial or violent behavior. A study of 340 teenagers found that those who were arrested were 4 times as likely to have elevated lead in their bones than similar demographic controls.
What leads to the higher...
With the law.
I'm sure this will be answered, but
now, this doesn't mean that...
I guess, well, maybe it won't be since it's almost over. What leads to the higher levels of lead concentration in the infants, in like the newborns and all of that? Is it just like how close they are to the gasoline or what? The water, I guess, lead paint. Yeah, lead's present in pretty much all food that's grown in the ground, but I feel like that's not going to be a huge contributing factor for like a newborn. A newborn's not going to be eating a ton of apples, right? But yeah, lead is literally in everything that grows from the soil. Tap water? Is there lead in the tap water? Yeah, I guess I didn't think of lead pipes. So like in older houses and shit. It's almost never zero. Well, yeah, you really can't escape lead consumption anymore. It is literally in everything. Like, again, every vegetable, every fruit, all of it has trace amounts of lead. Literally everything you consume does. I was just wondering what would cause, like, for infants and all of that to have increased levels of lead, and I guess it would probably just be where they are in the world and what they're eating. Very prevalent in seafood, too. Yeah, he even brought up that graph where the guy was studying lead concentration at surface versus deep. The mother passes lead into the baby. I don't even know if you're serious or not, but I love the idea that when a woman's pregnant, she starts, like, giving lead to the baby inside the body. Like a lead fucking ball bearing or something that serves as, like, the core for a human being. There's lead particles in the air due to farts. Learning about lead and the man who accidentally killed the most people in history.
Oh, what? That's cool as fuck.
Yeah, apparently it's from him creating leaded gasoline. It's actually pretty wild. I mean, that's possible. Fetal alcohol syndrome, don't smoke. Of course, what the mom eats would affect the baby. Fetal alcohol syndrome's a little different, though, I would think, right? I don't think lead would work the same way in passing it down. But again, I don't know. I'm not a fucking baby scientist. Thanks for some Krispy Kreme.
That lead is responsible for all of the increase in crime, but it's very likely responsible for some of it. Now, it's tough to estimate the precise death toll of lead. One of its lesser-known effects is a hardening of the arteries, leading to increased cardiovascular disease. Rate over the past century, that amounts to 25 million deaths in the US alone. Globally, the figure may approach 100 million. Most of those deaths are due to Midgley's decision to put lead in gasoline, a substance he knew firsthand was toxic, but he did it anyway to maximize profits. And the problem is not over. Current estimates of deaths caused by lead range from 500 to 900,000 per year. That's over 800 million children have blood lead levels at or above 5 micrograms per deciliter. A lot of this lead now comes from batteries and industrial processes, but some is still due to Midgley's invention. Now, after Midgley's success with ethyl, he was put in charge of another engineering project. GM wasn't just making cars, but also household appliances. And fridges had a problem. The two most common gases used as refrigerants were methyl formate and sulfur dioxide. One is highly toxic, the other is flammable. Midgley was tasked with creating a safer alternative, and in 1928 he developed a non-toxic and non-flammable refrigerant, dichloro-difluoromethane. GM called this new product Freon, and to demonstrate Freon safety, during the unveiling at the American Chemical Society, Midgley inhaled a lungful of this gas and blew out a candle. In the following decades, CFCs like Freon became very popular and were used as
a lot of things, but a
solvents
coward
and
he is
aerosols.
not.
The problem is CFCs are light and stable. When released into the atmosphere, they climb up into the stratosphere, where they can remain for 50 to 100 years.
Did you know that?
But if a CFC molecule is hit by an ultraviolet photon of just the right energy, it breaks apart, releasing a chlorine atom. And this chlorine atom can then react with ozone, breaking it apart into chlorine monoxide and oxygen gas. The result was another environmental disaster, the hole in the ozone layer. With less ozone, more UV light penetrates the atmosphere, increasing the rates of skin cancer and cataracts. Plus, CFCs are potent greenhouse gases. Per kilogram, they produce 10,000 times more warming than CO2. The historian John McNeill wrote that Midgley had more impact on the atmosphere than any other single organism in Earth's history.
So this guy was an actual supervillain.
Phased out CFCs, the Montreal Protocol went into effect in 1989. And the ozone...
he might still be alive, being kept alive by lead and chlorofluorocarbons. Let's see.
Could be.
Died... Oh, this is his wife, I was going to say. He died in 2018. Fucking good run. He died in 1944. Damn, she had a real good run.
In 1940, at the age of 51, Midgley contracted polio and became physically disabled. So to help him get up, he devised a mechanical bed controlled by a series of ropes and pulleys. On November 2nd, 1944, while using the contraption, he became tangled in the ropes and died of strangulation.
Oh my God! Holy
Thanks
shit.
to the work of Claire Patterson, it became clear that the lead in our environment is not natural. Burning lead in combustion engines spread the toxic element across the planet, into the air, oceans, the snow at the South Pole, and even our bones. Japan was the first to ban leaded fuel in cars in 1986, but other countries soon followed suit. Algeria was the last to do so in 2021. The UN calculates that the elimination of lead from gas saves over 1 million lives per year and $2.45 trillion. But leaded gas is still used, by the way, in piston-driven airplane engines.
Yep, I knew that.
That's now the largest source of lead emissions into the air in the US. You will observe with concern how long a useful truth may be known and exist before it is generally received and practiced on.
Damn, that music, that got intense at the end there. Breast milk can pass on lead to a feeding
and by making more environmentally friendly choices ourselves. On Wren's website, you can calculate how much carbon you emit and which activities have the greatest impact. And if you like, you can offset your emissions through a monthly subscription. The funds raised go to support a variety of projects that reduce greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. One project I particularly like involves collecting up flammable dead wood from California forests. This helps
Blizzard
prevent
employees
wildfires.
are worried.
Plus, the collected wood is converted into biochar, a material that locks up the carbon inside for thousands of years. Once you sign up to offset your carbon footprint, you'll receive monthly updates from the projects you support. It's completely transparent with photos and details of every tree planted, every acre reforested, every ton of carbon offset. And for the first 100 people who sign up using the link in the description, I will personally pay for the first month of your subscription.
Yeah, you know he's 50 years old?
I want to thank Ren for supporting Veritasium, and I want to thank you for watching.
Here's you some Metal Gear. Another banger from Veritasium. YouTube's worst blacksmith makes an axe. It's just gonna be a video of me or something when I was making my katana. This? Oh, I did a thing. I haven't seen this video.
You know what was great? Arts and crafts as a kid. Ah, I miss it. There's nothing more entertaining than getting a bunch of toddlers, pasta, paint, and a liter of glue and mixing them all together in a classroom to release their creativity. And what made it even better was that the materials...
My mom kept all of that shit too.
Meaning, if you ever got hungry,
I had so much talent.
Some pasta or some glue, heating things together with fire and hammers. So today, I'm going to do some of this.
That's my least favorite. Oh, he's wearing 2 gloves, you pussy.
A wide selection of glue.
Just let the scales hit your hand and burn them for 2 weeks like a real man. My fucking fingers still aren't fully healed.
I'm not a very good blacksmith. I've only done it a couple of times, and my products were pretty garbage. But regardless, I found it fun and want to do it again. And this time, I want to make something that looks impressive, that involves moving a lot of metal. Maybe a nice big double-headed axe. Do I need an axe? No. I've got a chainsaw for cutting trees. And I also don't need to chop firewood to keep warm, as my government is doing a great job of keeping the country nice and toasty by themselves. And now that I think about it, I'm not sure why double-headed axes exist. Yes, they look cool, but so does this axe pistol. Like,
that is pretty cool.
Practical to have 2 heads. Like, unless you're a super talented lumberjack that's able to cut 2 trees at once with a beautiful front and back motion.
True, I guess.
But besides that, it just seems like extra weight to carry around, and a great way to axe yourself in the face.
Actually, I could totally see that working. If you're going for like horizontal strikes, you can maybe pinball it back and forth between 2 trees that are just the right distance apart. So you hit there and then on a backswing hit the other way. You just kind of get like a little windshield wiper motion going maybe. I could see it working. Like in the most ideal of circumstances, that would probably never actually happen, but there's definitely an argument to be made. When one side gets dull, you switch to the other. What are you, like an axe scientist? My idea makes more sense.
So usually when I'm exploring and the location gets spooky and dark, I find it helps if you walk in with confidence and loudly say something to scare away any stoners or bandits.
Hello? This is the police. I have a
good
gun,
tactic.
and I'm gonna start shooting.
Okay, now I'm mostly just finding plastic rubbish, wood, and rebar. But hang on, what's that over there? Near the wall. Is that the piece of metal I placed there earlier for this video?
Oh my god.
Wow. What are the chances of finding that? So now I've got my piece of flat steel.
What a wonderful rusted piece of shit.
Tutorial on making axes, and just fold this metal bar over like a piece of paper until I get an axe. But first, I need to remove the rust. And the easiest and laziest way is to leave it marinating in vinegar overnight, and then give it a nice bath in the morning. Now a lot of you might look at the leftover rust water and think yuck, and throw it away. But you are wasting a miracle drink. My family usually decants the liquid into some jars, and then we add some to our morning coffee. And we've been doing this for generations, and all of us have lived...
Imagine he actually did drink the rust water just for the sake of the video.
The funniest part of that joke is that it actually took me hours and hours of grinding to cut out the axe.
God damn right it did.
Stuff, which is why I always wear the proper safety gear. Shoes, gloves, the whole lot.
None of which I used, except for the shoes. Oh, yes, assless chaps, my man.
The assless chaps joke. But what do you want me to do? I ruined my best pair of Levi's for that original joke, and I plan on getting my money's worth.
Chaps can only be assless. I wish I bought assless chaps in Texas.
As far as calling me an artisan of welding.
And this piece is from a true artisan. His artworks look impossible, combining metal objects that contrast and complement each other so beautifully. Each world has an aura of uncertainty. Will it hold, or will a light gust of wind cause it to fall apart.
You would rock them? I don't know, man. I'm not exactly cheeked up.
Excuse me,
I have Hank Hill ass.
Another olive in my drink? Sorry, sir, but we have a 12 olive limit per customer. Oh, okay.
And whenever you see people successfully forge weld on YouTube, they don't have the appearance of real people. They all look like kind of blacksmithing dwarves that somehow snuck out of Tolkien's universe into ours in order to start a YouTube channel. And they're always surrounded by heavy machinery and covered in soot, like they sleep on a hotbed of coals with a hammer under their pillow. And this is intimidating, because I only do one of these things. But I also know that all they're actually doing is getting stuff hot and then hitting it together hard enough until it's squished and sticks. So I'm going to give it a go. So I've got my axe nice and hot in the forge, and I'm going to bring the two sides closer together and then pour this stuff, borax, in between, which is meant to stop oxidation. Oxidation is the main thing that could screw me up, as it prevents the two sides from touching and bonding. And I found it super interesting that without any oxidation at all, metals will just stick together. For example, in space, if you get two flat pieces of metal and touch them together, they will cold weld. So if this
that's fucking awesome.
Doesn't work out, and Elon
let's just make blacksmiths in space.
Maybe help a guy out? And the metal should be hot enough, so I'm going to give it a good pounding.
There's your sub oyster. Man, this guy's good at blacksmithing.
I love blacksmithing.
I've been clickbaited.
One little hot piece of scale gets into your shoe and it instantly melts through your skin.
My man!
So much fun. And my arms are also covered in
oh, he got lucky.
As well.
He got so lucky. This is nothing. You should have seen my finger. Fucking whining about this. Bro, I told you, these scales are ruthless. Because they're so hot when they touch your skin, it like instantly grafts to it, and all you can do is just wait for it to cool down so you can finally flick it off. Shit is so painful.
Are also covered in fun little micro burns as well. And someone needs to invent something to prevent this, like some kind of arm sleeves that you can move down to the bottom of your arm whenever you're doing a dangerous task. Now I'm pretty certain I have a mean layer of oxidation in between the two layers. So I'm going to add more borax and then do what I always do with my problems in life, and just ignore it. Now even though the borax kind of looks like sherbet in bubbles in this really appetizing way, you must never eat it. Mostly because it can cause infertility, but if you don't want kids,
really?
Or, you already have them, then hey, free vasectomy. And this file is stuck in there pretty good, but the axe is looking a little mank compared to its former self. So I've got some options. Either I throw it away and buy an axe online.
Borax is ant poison as well? That makes sense.
It up. And I could do with lengthening my videos, so I went with the later option.
Ooh. The tang isn't pristine.
It looks like we've run into a problem.
Eek.
And when I say we, I actually mean me. You probably find my pain enjoyable. So it looks like the file has not properly welded into the rest of the metal, and there are some cracks here. And that's probably because of the incredible amount of oxidation I built up on the axe. But I reckon it's nothing an artisan of welding like me can't fix. Ignoring that,
axes don't have tangs.
Welding seemed to work really well, and the two sides stuck together without a visible seam. I hope
you don't know what you're talking about.
Proud. So now I need to decide what to do with the black scale that is covering the axe. And halfway through heat treating the axe, it started to rain. So I smartly decided to cover my forge in a big piece of flammable wood. Okay, so just the carbon edge of the axe has reached a
wow, barefoot blacksmithing is very, very bold.
Oil to harden the edge. And look at that. Can we just admire how bad I am at putting the axe in the container?
So one thing the blacksmith that taught us said to do is spin it around.
It has a hardened edge.
So when you put it in, you need to give it like some spins. Because if you dunk it like that in and out, you basically create like a little pocket of air each time, so it doesn't actually get fully quenched.
The rest of the video. And because I'm not happy with the axe head, I'm going to take the approach of every WOG family that owns a house in a crap area and overcompensate by blinging it out as a distraction. And as I'm twisting the leather down the handle in a cross pattern, I'm using little nails to crucify it in place.
Thanks for the gift subs, Trash. Good to see you. Hope you're doing well.
Which is something to catch your eye.
Wow, this looks really good.
Not like my last video. So I've decided to etch on my logo, and my options are to use acid or a Dremel tool. But after all that glue, I'm not sure I can handle any more substances. So I'm going to do it by hand with a Dremel tool.
Looks pretty cool to me.
Just copy and paste it onto the other side, and we're done skis. And I reckon it looks pretty good. Much nicer than the bent stick and bent screw I made earlier.
Damn, this came out so nice.
Now, I want to test it, and I originally planned to just chop some wood with the axe.
Let's go!
I was great at doing this, but it wasn't enough of a challenge. But then I remembered a video I saw earlier of the ultimate Chad, Gary, testing out his knife.
Hey, we watched this video a long time ago.
And in my opinion, this is the only way to test things. So, I built a simple obstacle course to test the strength of my axe.
Come on, Gary.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Come on, Gary.
I didn't expect that little maneuver there.
Come on, Gary. Nice job.
Oh my god, it's nuts. Holy shit, it's sharp.
Come on, come on, come on, get it. You can do it.
Let's go, Gary.
Oh.
This is my favorite part of the obstacle course.
Oh. Are you a mindless consumer that loves buying
What an ad segue.
Well, today's sponsor, honey, is perfect for you. You know, when honey was first found by mankind, it was only utilized as a sweetener to make dirt more edible. But now it does so much more than that. Honey is a free online shopping tool that automatically finds the best promo codes
He's a tier 1
on the internet
Evodario and
applies
the tier
them to your
1
car.
Kestrel.
Here, let me show you how this works. All you do is you put honey on your computer like this, and then it's just there, always on your computer. And then whenever you do anything, like go to your favorite sites like eBay or AliExpress, when you get to the checkout, honey scans for coupons and saves you money.
Watch the Chainsaw Man anime trailer. What, did they release a new one?
And then bam, honey saves you $45.
Can humans breathe liquid?
Oh, that feels so great.
Here's a gift sub again.
Over 17 million people
in the
have
Prime
done
Cat.
exactly this and put honey on their computer and saved $2 billion in savings. So install it for free today with just 2 easy clicks at joinhoney.com/iditathing. That's joinhoney.com/iditathing. And their name's so nice, they made me say it twice. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed that,
he did a great job.
And check out some of my...
He's a good blacksmith. Give me 1 sec. I'm going to the bathroom. I'll be right back. Hey, wait, this is the same mask they used for the fisherman. Maybe it's like an extended universe kind of thing. Thanks, Resub Yas. Hey, bye-bye, friends. Watch out! Why is she walking on the road instead of just on the sidewalk? Hey, hey. Whoa! They're everywhere!
I'm good. I'll see you tomorrow.
Wait, what? Oh, this must be like an interdimensional kind of thing.
I'm good. I'll see you tomorrow.
What is, oh my god, what is going on? We're caught in a time loop? Fisherman, I've come to bargain. Why doesn't she just try and fight back? Now that she knows it's coming, just deliver like a kick. Nice. I don't know what it means, but fuck yeah. Apparently The Fisherman is a pretty popular horror short thing. Let's see this fisherman. Well, this is an incredible intro. Oh my god. Alright, now I'm fucking ready. This is so tranquil. Hopefully the fisherman doesn't come and fuck it all up.
Really?
Oh my goodness, he's so heavy.
Oh, come here, you. Oh, you are a big one. Having trouble breathing, huh?
I was going on, big guy. Oh! Jesus Christ. What the fuck? Well, that got fucking wacky out of nowhere.
And with a fifth woman's body being found today, police are calling this the work of a serial killer. Police are advising the public to stay vigilant and to call the tip line if they feel like they have any clues pertinent to the case. This is Ryan Gardenstyle signing off for the afternoon. Remember, you're listening to HPLFF Radio,
That's
and we wish you...
stupid. What we need right now are killers. We need someone to thin out the herd. What we need right now is someone surgical to take out the cancer that is humanity.
Wow. This is... Isn't this the plot to that Hatred game?
There's a war going on right now to... What in the hell is that? Looks like you want some of old Greg. Alright, sweetie. Be right there.
What? This is making me very uncomfortable. So is he not the fisherman? Just old ass crack Willie over here?
How you doing, down? Wait, what?
Oh, get pranked.
Come on. Fake. What in the hell is this?
Oh, you just got fished. Oh my god. What the fuck? It looks like an old Godzilla costume right now.
Oh god, my leg. No. What are you... No. Please, no. No, I want to live!
Ooh. Yeah, that's karma. But he's still breathing. Actually, he might be okay. What an adventure. Awesome. Is this a true story? I'm not sure. I didn't see it in the beginning, but it may have been based on a true story. I think there's a good chance. There's probably enough of the fisher.